All right, here we are. We are live and good morning. So happy to be here today. Happy to be here any day, every day. We're going to play some music. We're going to talk about some stuff. I have my notes all neatly printed up today. Look at this. No more handwriting and scratching on paper. There will be more of that, I'm sure. Welcome, everyone. Brenda, Andrew, Anthony, our first ones here. Good to see you. I'm going to go ahead and play a little music. And as folks come into the room, I always say room because I'm used to doing stuff on Zoom. But I guess we're over here on Facebook and YouTube, multi-streaming to different channels and whatnot. Here we go. Yeah, today's the day. Today's the birthday. Thank you all. I woke up this morning with lots of text messages, lots of things on Facebook, lots of everything. More coffee is needed. Hey, let me go ahead and play some music while you all are coming in. Go ahead and share this with a friend. Share it in a Facebook group that you belong to. Tag a friend. We're going to get a little funky here this morning. I'm going to play some upbeat, fun stuff for you, and then we're going to dive into some tactics to help you make better melodies, come up with better melodies. I was going to say make better choices, but we're all responsible adults, or at least we should be, so I can't help you with that. Good to see you. Hey, I'm going to call out a couple folks I see here in the room. I said room again. Brent, good morning. Brenda, Jamie, Linda, Brian, Angelique, Mary Jane, Judith, Diane. Wonderful. Happy. Let me know where you're tuning in from. It's always nice to see how far the reach is. Let's get some things queued up here. This is a backing track off of YouTube called Disco Funk. Not quite sure where it came from, but it's a lot of fun. So if you have an A minor flute, I'm going to be playing my A minor flute from JP Gomez, Heart Song Flutes. And we'll go from here. So let's get this track queued up and let's make some music. It's a real fun one today. keeps going and going and going and going and going. Fun stuff. Hold on, couple settings here. User error. I'm glad you guys like that. It's fun to let loose and have a little fun. And what better day than your birthday to do that? Actually, I kind of let loose and have fun every day because that's life. And life should be enjoyed to the fullest. Also, I'll do that later. Also, yes, coffee is a part of this. It's nice to have some coffee in the morning and the afternoon. I see some friends joining us here. Hello, good morning. We've got Albert, Fabio, Corinne, Diane, G. Hughes. Scrolling through here. Tim, Bill, Brian, Tina. I'm having to squint. I'm glad the font is big, but it might need to be a little bigger. Good morning, Judith and Betty. Oh, good to see so many friends here in the room. Okay. Well, my friends, we have so much to unpack today. Look at all of these words on the page. I'll do my best to keep it brief, give you some examples of things that you can do in your flute playing. I have a highlighter, so I'm official now. I just need a clipboard. Supervisor. That's what they call me. Yes, awesome. Love to see the comments. Thank you. Thank you. Thanks for the birthday wishes too. Let's talk about this. Let's talk about motifs, melodies, coming up with some cool stuff. What I played for you just a minute ago was all improv. I'm following a backing track. Backing track's kind of not competitive, repetitive. And so the chords are all the same. Energy fluctuates a little bit, gets a little more high intensity and gets a little lower, a little calmer, but everything remains the same. We're not really going to address chords and playing along with backing tracks, though that is one thing where you can layer on a bunch of the stuff that we're going to talk about today. You can layer those things on this as well. So first and foremost, and you may recognize some of these, we did one for, I think it was on day 6, we covered improvisation. So you'll see some parallels here today. You'll recognize some of those things because improvisation is the gateway to composing music. You are essentially what I was doing just a minute ago and what you do every time you play your flute, improv, is you are creating in the moment. You are composing in the moment. What you do next is more important. If you decide to just let it go, which a lot of us just play and then it's off into the wind, cool. But if there's something there that you want to keep and you want to turn into something greater than what it is. And I'm going to give you some ideas today to help you come up with some melodies. You're going to hear motifs. You're going to hear things like hooks. So melody, we all know, is that that something, that phrase or those phrases that make up an entire piece, if you will. A motif is a part of that melody, and a hook is usually that thing that really gets in your ear. It's that earworm. It's Baby Shark or it's Beethoven. Ba-ba-ba-bum. Hook. It's going to hook you in, okay? So, first and foremost, thank you. I see all the comments coming in through now. Woohoo! Love to see that. Thank you. Let me know how many of you are focused. If you're a flute player who is focused on writing songs, songwriting, this is an area that I love working with students in. I love songwriting. It's creating and putting stuff together. So let me know if you're that type or if you struggle a bit with kind of putting the pieces together. I can definitely help you. And today's going to help you, and a resource that I'm going to show you is also going to help you. Oh, and before we get too far into this, I do need to pull up one other thing. Let's see. There's a resource that I want to show you that I forgot to pull up. This will work. Perfect. Okay. Yes and yes. I see that. Okay. Brian says fully immersed in songwriting. Singing Bird says yes and yes. Yes to both. Amen. Okay. It's not unusual to be in both of those places. It's not unusual to be loved by anyone. Good song. Okay. Number 1, choose an area of focus. This is one of the most critical components. This is why it's number 1. Many times when we go over, you've heard me talk about this in improv too. Many times when we walk over to our flute rack, we haven't made any decisions. I showed you guys in day 6 an improv filter. One of the priority things that you should do is check in with yourself. Choose the flute that's going to best resonate with what it is that you want to do. And number 3 is deciding how you want to play that. So this is an area of focus. So you're gonna be working on specific things. And again, this is another layer that's kind of that top layer. And as we go, we add things underneath of it. So set the foundation by deciding on specific elements and concentrate on things like phrasing, note choices, or scales. If not a complete scale, what is that one note that you want to focus around? And really, playing a mood also is something that you can do, like sad, somber, intense, powerful, happy, glad, fearful, brave. Like moods, music is a mood. You get to decide how you want to shape it. So number 1 is choosing an area of focus. The second thing, which it gets more fun as we go, but these are foundational level things. Improve your ear training. So many of us, we hear something on the radio, we hear something, a tune here or there, and it's hard for us to kind of figure it out on the flute. This is actually one of my my strong suits. My sight reading is not great. I could use improvement there. But if you play something for me, and if we're ever in a Zoom session together and you play something for me and I can't see your hands, I can tell what you're playing. I know the flute well enough to know where you're at, where you're going, what note you're playing, what sequence. Improving your ear training. We've got a couple of modules in Horizons Plus on ear training that go easy, moderate, and a little more tough. But this is important because as you are moving about in your day-to-day life, there's this thing called autonomy. And the best way that I explain this to students is it's like when we have our best ideas when we're showering, right? It's some of it, you'll say, oh, it's the water. The water movement creates ideas. Not really. We're doing something that's very autonomous. So our brain is freed up. We know how to bathe ourselves. We don't have to think about the next step. We're not reading the back of the shampoo bottle going, rinse, wash, repeat kind of thing, or wash, rinse, repeat, however you do it. We know how to do that. And what I'm getting at is our brains are freed up and we're able to think about and process other things. As we go through our daily lives, we're walking, we're gardening, we're doing these other activities, and we're just humming, we're singing, we're whistling. There's some sort of music that is a part of us and it's coming out. And you come up with something and you're like, wow, I really like that. Where'd that come from? I'm not sure. So this is where you can take those things, and again, this is later, but just record something of that and then try to figure it out on the flute. So ear training goes such a long way when it comes to creating a melody. It brings me to another, our third one, and that is playing another instrument. Now, for some of you, it may look like the flute is your primary instrument, or you played flute or clarinet or some sort of woodwind or piano or stringed instrument in school, and you have this long gap of time between that and picking up the flute because you miss having music in your life, and the flute fills that. There's something about being able to play a different instrument and being able to come back to native flute going, wow, I wonder if I could do this. So playing another instrument gets us a little bit more. And I will say, if you haven't chosen an instrument to play yet, aside from the flute, I would highly recommend something that can play chords. A lot of folks who are into native flute are also into these instruments: the harp, the dulcimer, the guitar, the ukulele, and the piano. Those instruments can all play chords. And at the flute, unless you have a triple flute, you can't play chords on a flute. It's a solo instrument. Chords can give you so many ideas and a framework for putting a melody over top. Then you take that instrument and you lay down a track of you playing those chords, simple as it may be, and then play your flute over top. You've now created your own backing track. I'll pause here. Denise says, dabble a bit and struggle to make them rich and not too simple. Sometimes we get tied up in the fancy and we lose sight of the meaning or the moment. Okay. Let's see. Brent says, I come from and live more in an improvisational world rather than writing music. Sure. So all different types. Okay. Anthony says, mostly improv, but songwriting currently. Good. And Brian says, a recovering trumpet player here. Okay. The other thing is, when you have another instrument to bounce off of, you get out of some of your patterns, some of your stuckness, some of your ruts, just because you have another tool of expression that you can play and work out some ideas on, rather than just the flute. Sometimes our flute we get boxed in with, and so we need something a little fresh, something a little different, and something that we can do different things on. With the flute, we get a little limited, which is okay, but sometimes we want something fresh. Okay, let's get into this. So those are kind of the three foundational things. Let's get into more technical things, okay? One idea that you can use to create a better melody is to borrow a song. This can be a challenge for some, especially those who perhaps are really good at playing by ear. Borrowing a song, you're going to get sucked into playing the same pitch and actually playing that song rather than borrowing the rhythmic component of that song. And by rhythmic component, I'm not talking about the drums, talking about the note duration and how that melody or motif or idea is structured. We're not really concerned about pitch. We're talking about rhythm. And so when you borrow a song, so for example, something that you know quite well, and I'm going to go back further, and we can use Mary Had a Little Lamb, right? It's a simple song. Most of us know it. And if I play that on the flute, it sounds, I can play the actual, let's see if I can actually play the melody. Super simple melody, but it's got a hook. We remember it. A lot of us, it's a part of our childhood. So we dig deep in the files and we're like, yeah, I know that song. Okay, so let's change it. Let's make it something different. We can take the same kind of rhythmic component, da 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 da. That's all you need, okay? Now, if you don't know the melody, it doesn't matter. You know the rhythm, okay? You play that rhythm into your flute. So we could say just one note. Sounds kind of boring. Let's add some notes to it. When you're coming up with ideas, when you're improvising, sometimes we are doing too much at a time. So what if I just say, for this, I'm going to have 3 notes. I'm going to have 3 notes to come up with something. Okay? Let me find a right spot. Here we go. Somewhere different that I know that I won't cross with it. Okay, maybe that was good. Maybe we want to move around a little bit. So you can see there's lots of different areas you can take it, but borrowing that song, borrowing the rhythmic component of it, can be a really great kind of start, a creative start, a launch pad, a springboard for you. So I want to share a tool with you also, because when we talk about melodies, when we talk about songs, something that I find in our native flute community, our native flute industry, is there's a lot of mellow, long tones, which there's nothing wrong with that. But sometimes we want to be a little bit more melodic. We want to be a little more peppy. We want to be a little more happy. And so 2 things in song form that we look for is uniformity and variance, but also we have tension and resolve. So I want to show you a really great tool that kind of layers on both of these things. Let me clear out my desktop here and show you. Whoops, that was the one that I needed. This is something from the Songwriting Shortcuts book. I use it in a couple of other places too. This is called phrasing prompts. This is in the Creating Harmonious Flow course as well. I've talked about that quite a bit as we've gone through this. But phrasing prompts acts like this, and really what it gets you into is, yes, tension, resolve, because a lot of our native flute music is heavy on resolve, especially if you're playing like with an ambient pad or you're playing with something that is kind of mellow. That resolve is very peaceful. Tension is not peaceful, but tension adds surprise. Tension adds so much depth and texture to your melody, and it sets your melody up to have a release point. Okay, so phrasing prompts is a tool that I developed, and you can see these. There are 4 phrases, and they're arced accordingly. So you can see here, and what it is. The middle part, you do not have to play 8 notes. The way this exercise is, it is the last note that is the most important. So the best way I can explain this exercise is if you have a teenager. And how we do that is phrase 1 ends up being a question. Phrase 2 is an answer to that question, but with some tension. And phrase 3 is a reframe of that question. And phrase 4 is that final resolve. So phrase 1 might look like, hey dude, can you take out the trash? And phrase 2 might be that answer with tension. It's like, oh man, I did that yesterday. Do I really have to? And then phrase 3 is that reframe of the question. Yes, it would be nice if you did. I'm counting on you, or something, whatever. And phrase 4 is going to be that kind of, I hate to just be so blunt, but it's like, oh my gosh, fine, I'll do it. And so what we get is this tension in phrase 2 is almost like asking a question back, right? It's like, oh man, do I have to? And notice like what happens with the voice, right? Oh man, do I have to? Like there's a little accent at the end and it's not finalized. But in 4, all right, fine, I will. Dun 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 dun. I will. So if I were to play this for you, and you're welcome to do this at home too. This is Inside Again, the Songwriting Shortcuts book, which I'm going to talk about a little bit later. You can play whatever you want in here. You can actually start here on the first note. You don't have to, but I want you to end each phrase with that specific note. Okay? So, phrase 1. Two. Not done. Phrase 3. Good. So we can kind of feel the movement in the melody just with these 4 phrases. The last note, hold it a little longer. It's going to further the feeling of tension or resolve. Now, there are more of these. So you can see there's in groups of these. Again, this is an exercise that's been very, very helpful for flute players. Many members inside Horizons Plus 2 have emailed me or shared with me that they've written songs based off of this. And with any of my tools, I want you to take them and kind of make them your own, right? So these are ideas. These are things that, are in my head and my heart that help me to compose or to be creative, that kind of thing. So it's my way of sharing these things with you as I go. Phrasing prompts is a great tool to help you be a little more musical with tension and resolve. Which leads me to my next my next point here. So point number 6 is creating shapes. I'm gonna pause here to check on our chat. Our chat is going a little quiet. I think mostly because you all are playing your flutes. Which is good. I love it. So if you're watching this live today and you've done the phrasing prompts exercise, let me know in the chat how this has worked for you. What do you like about it? What would you change about it? Good stuff. So creating shapes. So in that phrasing prompt, and when I was doing this exercise, my notes were kind of going up and down. Every note that you play is a choice, and it's either higher than the one you just played or it's lower than the one that you just played. So as you go from note to note, if you were to put that on a staff of music, they go up or they go down. And if you connect the dots, that's where you start to see the shape. Is the shape zigzaggy? Is the shape flat across? Does the shape kind of go up and then down? Does the shape go down and then up? Some of the best melodies that we hear, how they're exciting, how they're inviting, is because their shape goes up. And at the very end, it might drop a little bit. So let me demonstrate that for you. Many of us like to start on all holes closed of our flute. I have some feelings around that, which I won't get into. But if I create this asking a question and the question goes up, and then when I resolve, I want to eventually bring it down. See how my voice was reflective of that? Also my body, because that's how I do it. Okay. There's one that ended up, one that ended a little bit down. So forth and so on. As you start to see, and for those of you who have sheet music, connecting the dots is a really great way to kind of trace the shape of music. Focus on shapes and how they're moving your melodies. Okay, we've got some stuff coming in. Betty says, I don't know how many times you've told us about phrasing prompts. It is a really good tool. But this time I really understand exactly what you're talking about. Thank you. Awesome. Sometimes we hear stuff over and over, but we're just not ready for it, or it's not explained in a certain way. And this is also why, I've worked with students and I'll get to a point with them where I feel like they're not really growing. And not that I fire students, but I'm like, I think you need a different perspective. I think you need a fresh perspective. I think you need a different teacher, someone who can instill these things with you, but from a different angle, using different language, that kind of thing. And sometimes people come to me because of that. So we all have to find our way. We all have to find what works for us. Andrew, you made it tangible when you gave a language-based domestic experience. Cool. Okay, so we've covered choose an area of focus. Number 2, improve your ear training. Number 3, playing different instruments. Number 4, borrowing a song. Number 5, phrasing prompts. Number 6, creating shapes in your music. Number 7, we're going to get into a little bit actually with phrasing prompts and shapes. This is a good thing to go with next. Choose and test intervals. Our flutes, if you play up the scale, you are playing intervals. Intervals is from one note to the next, the distance between those two. And so one thing, actually two things here that I want you to really focus on this week, if nothing else in your flute playing. Specifically improv and maybe melody creation, because they are so closely knit together. One is something that I call neighboring note syndrome. So many times when we are playing our flute, what ends up happening is we just go for the next hole that's available, whether it's up or down. And we just get stuck in this kind of weaving through the basic scale and not really leaping to anything. We're not taking greater interval jumps. Neighboring note syndrome is something that almost all of us face. I want you to focus on not getting trapped into that. Okay? Neighboring note syndrome can it can lead to boredom. But the other thing, piggybacking on that, is the second thing, and that is learn to be comfortable playing the same note twice or 3 times in a row. You'll notice when I played just a little improv, I jumped an interval from the root to the 5th. That's the halfway point on our flutes. And I didn't just move from it, and I didn't just play it a long tone and leave it. I'm actually playing the note consecutive. Get comfortable playing the same note back to back. You don't have to create a distraction or a lot of movement in order for it to really be a great melody. Beethoven, bum, 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 right? 3 notes in a row, the same. Okay, so choose and test intervals. You'll hear a ton of not only native flute music, I'm guilty of this, but in music in general, you're going to hear root to 5. This is a really common jump point, okay? But is there something else? Especially for those of you who like to play and start on root, can you go root 6? Can you go root 6 flat? One of my favorites, root 7. Ooh, that creates a lot of excitement. You know, when you go from so low to something so high. So instead of just going to like the 3rd, if you were to go here, cool. Look at that. Already it's starting to take melodic and rhythmic shape. Play around with intervals. So here's the other thing. These next two kind of go hand in hand. So number 8 is Sandbox improv. If you ever watched little kids playing in a sandbox, and maybe you had a kid that did, maybe you were a kid that did, if you just kind of like look at what they're doing, they're just playing, right? Some have goals on making a sand castle or a little path for their cars, or they're digging with the Tonka trucks, whatever it is. But 9 times out of 10, just playing and feeling and being in the moment. I talked about this, I think, on day 1 of the live streams, and that is the different areas in which we make music: play, practice, perform, right? Those are the top 3. A lot of us will spend time in practice mode. We're working on something, we're rewinding, we're fixing the error, we're ironing out the wrinkle, whatever. Performing is when you just keep swimming, just keep going. I made a mistake. Oh, well, let's keep moving. Or let's do it again and call it jazz. Whatever the thing is, we're in performance mode. I want you to also, no matter what your practice schedule looks like, no matter what your performance schedule looks like, no matter what your songwriting looks like, no matter what any of these things look like, I want you to make time to play and never lose sight of curiosity, okay? Because when you can approach the flute, any instrument, I wonder what would happen if, I wonder what would happen if instead of starting on the bottom, I start with the half hole down here on the bottom, and I go to this note. What would happen? All improv. And it started with a what would happen if. I wonder what would happen if. Sandbox. Get in your playful spirit. Have fun. Do things that wouldn't normally work. If you've been told, no, don't do that, try it. But really pay attention. And that's where the 9th thing comes in. You all have heard me say this multiple days. Record yourself. Record yourself. Video yourself is the best. You can open up a Zoom room and video yourself. You can pick up your phone, put it on selfie mode, record yourself. And the reason we do this is because we capture so much data around this. If there's absolutely nothing that you want to keep out of that, then you can delete it. It's digital. It has done no harm. But if there's something in there that you want to keep, that you want to hold on to as reflecting on later, or, oh man, I came up with this cool lick, this cool thing, then that's a great time to extract that. And if you have a video of you, like many of you love it when you can see my hands playing the flute and doing the thing, you can do that too. And that way you capture your body language, your hands on the flute, what flute it is. Your body language will also dictate the mood, and you'll be able to see your fingers and what they're doing. Okay, so we have gone over so much. I want to, actually I'll pause before I move any further here. GS Bradshaw, guilty, yep, that's me. Bonnie, happy birthday, thank you. Singing Bird, love adding half steps, altering scales within a piece. Yeah, the other thing too is like when we're doing this, when I talked about intervals and I was going from like root to 7, so something like this, da, going way up here. So you can jump there and that creates excitement. And I mentioned earlier about uniformity and variance. So the second time that you go through this, you may not want to just jump there. Like maybe it is the signature thing that's the thing that stays consistent and what happens next changes. But sometimes it's nice to change the leading thing rather than the lasting thing. So instead of just jumping right here, we can also run to that note. So instead of the next time through, subtle, different, little thing there, but can be a little, just the thing that you're looking for. Angelique asks, is it important to record ourselves with video or is audio enough? Audio can be enough if you've got a good ear. If you know you don't have a good ear and you struggle to find where it is in your flute, then video is probably going to be best, so that way you can see your hands. I will say this though, if audio is your only thing and what you're comfortable with, I've encouraged students to do this. Before you start playing, you say, today is July 6th, 2024, if you want to do that. Say the date. I'm playing XYZ flute. I'm feeling this way. My focus around what I'm going to play is the piece of music you're practicing and performing or playing, or the thing that you're going to attempt to do. You may or may not hit that goal. And before you push stop on the recording, you're recording that part too. So before you start playing, you capture all of that in the recording, because we forget. We're full of distractions and things, and we may not remember what flute or what we were feeling or what our area of focus was. So before you end the recording, you can then say, I feel like I did what I wanted to accomplish, or I don't feel like I did that at all, but I found this really cool thing. And then if you even want to repeat what you did, anything you can do to help yourself, give an extra note, a reminder, anything like that is going to really help you. Okay. Well, I want to talk about one other thing while we're here. Oh, and Anthony says, I've started adding humming to my playing. That's cool. I think we covered that in the bluesy thing. Ernest says using embellishments might be too much. That's the other thing I want to drive home. We talked about this yesterday with learning songs, the 3-step process, the what, the transition, the how. Guys, focus on the melody, focus on the music, not so much the embellishments. Like, put those on pause for a little while. A lot of times we hide behind those. We get comfortable doing these couple of things, or we get so focused on, I want to sound good and polished, that we layer on those too thick, and we're not really focused on what makes a good melody, what makes a memorable melody, something that when your listeners hear it, they're going to go, ooh, I like that thing. You can always take that recording, that thing that you wrote down, that thing that you always play, whatever it is, you can bring it back into the Sandbox and you can start toying with it. I wonder what would happen if I put a flutter here. I wonder what would happen if I did a gallop between those notes. I wonder what would happen if instead of I playing this note, I play this other note and then it leads into something else. So lots of things to consider, but the number one takeaway here is listen to yourself. You have music in you. You just need to hear it. You need to play it first, then you need to hear it. And then don't lose your sense of curiosity. A lot of us come to the native flute without a lot of musical experience, and that's fine. I did. I've been playing the native flute since 2002, and it pretty much was my first instrument. I play piano now, and I dabble with all sorts of things. Like I said, I'm playing other instruments, and I'm coming up with things on that saying, how can I play that on my flute? That sounds really cool. So it's a process. You're going to be working on music and breath and all these things for a long time, I hope. So that leads me to my next area of business. And that is, if you have these little, each day during our live stream, we're doing a 1-day deal. And if you have these little hooks, these little 10-second melodies, these little 5-second things, whatever the case, I wrote a book around my strategy on how to take those and lengthen them to make 2.5, 3.5, 4-minute songs. And so you get to see kind of behind my brain, in my brain, behind the scenes, however you want to say it. We have heard so many great things from flute players who take this and go, aha, I get it. So today, for my birthday, my songwriting book, Songwriting Shortcuts for the native flute, is only $5. That's the digital version. We do digital because it's a lot easier on our international friends. International shipping is quite a bit. The other thing is, I've talked about this before, our Horizons Plus membership. We'd love to have you a part of our membership. It is our promotion right now is just $1 a day. You can join us for Q&As, flute circles, guest workshops. A lot of this stuff is recorded, put on your dashboard, so if you can't make the live events, you can certainly partake and absorb. A lot of the materials that I put out, I have guides that go along with lots of tools and resources. So consider this, and once we're done live streaming tomorrow, we'll be going back to the regular rate. So this is an opportunity for you to save 31% on the membership, and you get to lock in that rate. So I know we have a lot of Horizon Plus members here today, and they've been in the chat throughout this. It's good to see you here. I'm gonna look at the comments here just to see if I missed anything, and then I'll play a song for you guys on the way out. And then I'm off to do birthday activities. I might get a haircut because that's the responsible thing to do. Gregory says, melody is the most important. Tony says, changing your hands around from top to bottom. Yep. Okay. Molly says, I think just playing around on an instrument and experimenting are important and fun. I play almost 20 musical instruments. More than half of them are different flutes. Absolutely. Absolutely. Thanks for the birthday wishes, everyone. Cool. Okay, well, I want to share a song with you. I'll tell you about the flutes. And speaking of different flutes, you'll see 3 different flutes in this next piece. I'm going to start out with a high D flute. This is made from... Actually, I don't remember what the wood is. It's very buttery, and it's very, very smooth. It's also very heavy. I'm glad I don't have a mid-range flute out of this. But it's from Southern Cross Flutes. Okay. Then I'll have, you'll see this flute for a while. This is, you've seen this in YouTube videos before. This is my George Dyson Bamboo D flute. Love the tone on this. And then you'll also see this weird flute. This was presented to me as a Persian flute. It's a transverse flute. It's a different. I've had this flute, well, it was made in 2012, so I've had this flute for a little while. So the name of the song is called Masked Ibis. This is from my Migration album, which came out in 2019. It was the year I left my full-time job in marketing and communications to pursue music again full-time. And so Migration was my returning, my flying home to, I believe, what is my purpose. And Migration went on to win a few awards, but also got picked up on Sirius XM radio, and then Balance followed that as well. And so if you listen to Sirius XM radio, the Spa channel, I forget which number it is, it's changed over the years. I think I still have the old one in my head. Maybe it's 63 or 71 or 73, something like that. You might hear me. I've got about 4 songs that play on rotation there pretty regularly. So here's one of them. This one is called Masked Ibis. All right. Fun stuff. Different flutes. So it's nice when you get into this creative melting pot to throw different flutes together and see how they all blend or don't. Hey, I want to thank you guys so much for joining me today. I want to share one other link with you and one other announcement. So to get that Songwriting Shortcuts book today, I'm going to post the link in the chat for you. I hope that comes through. Maybe it got cut off. I think the link is a little too long. I was afraid of that. Let me do it one more time for those of you on YouTube. Looks like there's some character limits impacting me here. And then lastly, thank you so much for the love. Thank you for the birthday wishes. One other thing, tomorrow evening, so this will be 6 p.m. Central Time, 4 p.m. Pacific. Cornell Kendrick Knecht and I are doing a free workshop on Zoom. This will be for it's free for everyone. Horizons Plus member or not, Horizons Plus members will be able to get the playback. So let's see if this link will go. I'm going to post that into the... Looks like it got truncated too. I need to find a way to make these a little shorter. Let's try this one more time. Here's the link to the Zoom registration. Everyone is invited. All flute players, all levels. We're going to be using 2 different scales and really pulling out their natural demeanor and how we shape them into something different. We'll have some exercises and resources for you guys too. But it's really to kind of break you outside of your box if you feel kind of stuck with the same sounds. This is a great opportunity for you. I love working with Cornell, and I think you'll really enjoy this workshop, and I look forward to seeing you there. So friends, thank you so much for all the birthday love. Thank you for sharing, liking, subscribing, all the things on the digital platforms. They all help. Thank you so much. Also, this week has been very busy with emails. It's been very busy with holidays and promotions and live streaming and all the things. Thank you for partaking in this so far. Tomorrow, I plan on sharing 10 of my coolest and weirdest flutes. So it'll be a little different than what we've done thus far. I hope that these tips that I've been sharing every day have been really helpful for you. I know that it can sometimes feel like drinking out of a fire hose, and just know that if seeds are planted now, later on they can bloom and they can come to fruition. So you may not be ready for some of this stuff. It may just kind of be like, oh yeah, I heard that before. But I share this stuff with love. I share this stuff because I care, and I want you to get the most out of your flute journey that you can. And so with that, I wish you all well. I'll see you again next time. Take care. Thanks for being here today.